friends for like 3 years in high school, and then like dated for like 3.5 years in college, and then she kicked my ass to the curb. I was gonna say we broke up, but really she kicked my ass to the curb. Uh, it was mutual. No, it wasn't mutual. Uh, the months after that breakup, man, my life was like a freaking desert. So some of you have maybe experienced something like this. Like emotionally, it felt like a desert. Like I just thought like nothing I would, it was never going to get better again. And I just felt like totally at a loss. That was, incidentally, to tie this with stuff I mentioned earlier in the semester, that kind of, wait, no, in this context, we haven't even heard this yet, because I already recorded the video. But I believe it's the next video when we talk about the meaning of life. I talk about, in our lives, we try to make sense of our lives by telling a kind of narrative. And my relationship with her was a huge part of that narrative arc that I was using to make sense of my life, this kind of story I was telling myself about my life. That's how we give our lives meaning. And then when she broke up with me, man, that like threw my entire life into kind of disarray, because that's how I'd been understanding a lot of terrible events in my life. Is, well, at least I met this girl. And that, this one good thing came out of those experiences. And then that took that away. And then I was like, well, then there's no meaning to any of those events. And that's a rough situation. So I didn't want to experience that kind of, hopelessness again, and meaninglessness again. That was tough. Some parts of my life were pretty awesome though. So, getting my PhD, that was pretty cool. That's about it. I'm just kidding. There are lots of things, lots of wonderful experiences with my dog that I would love to live again with family and with friends. But I want to select some things, say yes to some things and not to other things. And Nietzsche wants to say, no, that's not the deal. You can't be selective about it. You have to say yes to all of it or no to all of it. You got to pick one, is what he's trying to say. Because he says all of life is interlocked. So you have to say yes to the whole or no to the whole, right? So he is trying to say that most of us are we're kind of like nihilists, like that we want to say no to some aspects of our lives, that we want to say, no, I don't like that part. I want to say no to that part of reality. I don't like. And he wants us to actually try to figure out what is a perspective from which we could learn to embrace the entirety of our lives, even the ugly stuff, even the suffering. And is there a way that we could shape the narrative of our lives to create a kind of value with our lives or in our lives that would enable us to say yes, even to the ugliness that we've experienced and will experience in the future? And that's really what Nietzsche's philosophy is about. Again, it's about life affirmation. What is it that would give what is it that you could find or devote yourself to, or that you could create in yourself or in art or music or whatever, or professionally? What is it that you could devote yourself to that would give the entirety of your life meaning, that would enable you to say, essentially at the end of your life, yes, I would want to do this again and again and again. I want to say yes, right? Amor fati, saying yes to fate, right? Learning to love fate. This is what Nietzsche wants for us, is to find a perspective from which we can switch our answer to eternal recurrence from a no to a yes. So the second thing I want you to think about is, how, as Nietzsche asked, how would this change your life if you actually believed that this was true? Like, I think so. There's some debate about whether or not Nietzsche literally believes in eternal recurrence. I kind of think that it's irrelevant. Whether or not he actually believes that the universe repeats and that you'll live your life on an infinite loop. I think he thinks that we should live as if it's true, regardless. And think about what that would actually be like. If you literally believed that you would live every moment of your life an infinite number of times, how would that change your life? I think many people, especially when they're out in the working world or whatever, they tend to tell themselves stuff like, I hate my job. Like, I loathe my job. But if I can only do it for like 2 more years and I'll get that promotion, or 5 more years and my kids will be through college or whatever it is, and they just like grit their teeth and bear it even though they don't like it. But if you believed, Monday morning, 8 to 8:30, you're about to get in the car, that this day, that morning of work, if you go to work that day, you will live that morning an infinite number of times in that job that you hate. I think that he believes that a lot of people would just be like, F it, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore, and would do something else. And he's like, yes, find what you can say yes to. What is it that would give your life meaning and value? Would you want to go freaking backpacking in the mountains instead, in the Himalayas, instead of working as a computer engineer? Then effing do it. Quit your job, go to freaking Nepal, and learn to freaking climb, right? Do it, right? If you want to go teach whatever, English in China or something like that, do it, right? You want to whatever. If you're married and you don't want to be married anymore, then divorce that person and do something else. I think this is right. Nietzsche's not he's not like a Christian moralist. I think he would say, think about how this should actually change your life. If you are in an unhappy marriage, the next day that you spend in that unhappy marriage, you're going to live that infinitely. How would this change things? I think a lot of people would live their lives very, very, very differently if they believed that this was true. And Nietzsche says, yeah, well, you should live that way, right? Stop being so burdened by this kind of traditional morality. Stop hating your life. Find something that you can say that will make you say yes to all of life, that will make you affirm all of life, and stop hating it so much, because this is the only reality there is. You need to learn to say yes to it. So his view here, eternal recurrence, is really the antithesis of Christianity. It's the antithesis of Islam. It's the antithesis of Buddhism, which he views as being kind of nihilistic ways of life, of rejecting the here and now and thinking about heaven only. And he says there is no heaven, there's no nirvana, there's nothing else, there's no learning to let go and dissolving the self. You're just going to live this life infinitely, and so you should live accordingly. And so you need to learn to say yes, to embrace life. So eternal recurrence is a way of, as he says, of giving infinite weight to every moment of our life. Whereas Christianity, for example, teaches us to say that this life doesn't even matter. Nietzsche wants to give infinite weight to every moment of our lives, to make it infinitely valuable and infinitely important. So Nietzsche is offering a complete antithesis to the sickness and the poison that he thinks that Christianity is. So there you go. What are you going to do with this? It's worth thinking about. All right, I'll see you next time.